It has been a minute since I've been able to do a review. So Crucial sent me their DDR5-6400 Pro Overclock Edition. Now, this is a bit of a bittersweet review and most of you will know what I'm talking about, but I'll touch on it at the end. Crucial is extremely strong in SSDs. As you will note, they were pretty much the last review that I did. We've done the P5 Plus, we've done the T700, T705, and so on and so forth. And they're very good for servers, gaming machines, and laptops. But gaming RAM was pretty quiet after Ballistics ended. So the previous kit of RAM that I reviewed for Crucial was the Crucial Pro DDR5-5600. This was in 2023. It was acceptable and it had a bit of a bland design. It was a flimsy little piece on top with a little pinching, which we'll get to. And overclocking was okay, but it wasn't stable at anything over 6,000. I tried at 6,000 to 6,400. So when they sent me this new kit, my expectations were modest to say the least. I always start off with the design, and it's clean. It is non-RGB. So if you want or need RGB RAM, this is not going to be for you, but I do like the nice clean aesthetic and it lends itself to many different types of PC builds. The main feature when it comes to design is its origami styled heat spreader. It's much more solid and better build quality than the 5600 that I received before. There's no flexing when you're trying to pinch it at the top. It's rock solid. And what I received from Crucial was a single black DIMM and a 2-stick white DIMM. They were identical, and I only tested the white because obviously we want to see dual channel. Specs wise for the kit that I tested, DDR5-6400 and CAS latency of 32. There are many variants, you're going to have to check the website. Now this was 16x2 with a total of 32 gigabytes. They are UDIM and optimized for overclocking and gaming. If you want to know the full timings, it's 32, 40, 40, 103. And it supports EXPO and it supports XMP 3.0. Now its benefits is that DDR5 has become a much more stable platform with better latency. So we are starting to see much better results and more stable overclocking as people want to start to fine tune DDR5. Performance, which we're going to get onto the results now. I tested using EXPO only. I'm only running an AMD machine. I ran it at 6400 mega transfers, basically with EXPO just clicked on, and it passed the full 5-hour stability test in Memtest 86. So the benchmarks will be presented as graphs, but let's go into the results. So as mentioned before, we start with setting EXPO profile 1. First, we have the Crucial Pro, what we reviewed before in EXPO, Guild Polaris. Also in EXPO, you can see all the timings and the frequencies underneath, and then the 6400. Now, for some strange reason, it was a lot higher, but do note that when testing, I'm testing on different motherboards constantly, so it's very difficult to get reliability unless you're using the same BIOS version, the same setup the entire time. But then we move to AIDA64, and we can see 71.9, slightly better than the Guild Polaris at 74.4, and a lot better than the Crucial Pro 5600 at 80.2. But then we go on to PassMark and lower latency, again better, where it scored 47, and this latency was lower than the latency for the Guild Polaris and the Pro 5600. So we're starting to see differentiating results from the same test, albeit with different hardware. Memtest on transfer, we see our first, call it significant result, where it hit 62588, comparing to the Pro 5600 of 54691. Then on AIDA64, read, write, and copy, we can see on the far right is the Pro OC6400. Now it underperformed in read against both the Guild Polaris and the Pro 5600 by quite a distance, but then makes up for it a lot on write, where we see a difference of 82,898 versus 71,203 from the Pro 5600 and 73,683 from the Guild Polaris. Then we have the last, which is PassMark overall, where it achieved only slightly higher than the 5600 and under the Guild Polaris. But before we go into why I think it's better RAM, let's look at the test results, where we can see DIMM A and DIMM B have no errors on a full test. So this was at 6400. Note that I did not do this test in the other results that I'm about to show you. So we have 6400. You've seen all the tests work at 6400, but here's Windows and MSI's test to show you what it does at 6400. But then this is where it gets interesting, because I had issues overclocking the 5600. I got to 5800, but it was unstable. And on these overclocks, I had no issues. Now the results will contradict me, but please bear with me, because the first thing that I did was push it from 6400 EXPO straight to 7400. Now this is just straight overclocking, no messing with the timings. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned before, or I may have mentioned, RAM is extremely expensive, so it's not something that I could afford to play with, especially when it comes to voltage, because then one has to fork out and it's kind of double the price. But the timings are a little bit garbage, but the fact of the matter is it's stable. So this has my first initial thought of, overclocking is possible, but we do see that the timings go to 60, 60, 60, 119. Now these aren't great timings, but we do have a higher frequency. Now, depending on the type of exercise that you're going to do, sometimes a higher frequency can be better, even though your CAS latencies are a bit higher, but this is going to depend on the application. Then we go to 7600. I did try for 7800, but I could not get any stability. Every single time I got into the OS, it was pretty much plonking. But we hit 7600 and stable-ish. Again, didn't do MEM test, but we have no phase in the temperatures of the DIMMs. They're still sitting nice and cool at 31.5. But then we look at the sub timings again, and it's 62, 61, 61, 122. Again, this is just a straight overclock. But this leads me kind of to the conclusion of this RAM, is that we have more headroom and more playroom to be able to overclock, versus on previous versions there was absolutely no ability. Basically, once you set AMD's EXPO or Intel's XMP, you were kind of restricted. Even when you went into the sub timings, you couldn't get post. So for those who really like to go and play with sub timings, you can see here that with relative ease, we should be able to get a higher frequency and better timings, and therefore better results out of it. Also with the design, it feels more robust, and it honestly just had a more reactive feeling for me using it overall. As we can see from the tests, there's actually a lot more overclocking headroom. I did achieve 7600 mega transfers, but the CAS latency was not optimal for the speed, but it demonstrates the significance of tuning potential if you are someone that likes to fine tune their RAM. I anticipate that overclockers that have the real time and effort to be able to go and fine tune will be able to achieve 6600 to 6700, and this is with proper timing. It's best to just put this in XMP or EXPO, because RAM isn't exactly cheap at the moment, and it's a potential risk for playing around with this. In conclusion, it's a clear and obvious improvement on the 5600 that I got to test before. The extra headroom suggests that Crucial is seriously re-entering the gaming RAM market. Its design is really nice for clean builds and reliable performance, but it's not recommended for users who want RGB or ultra high-end kits where we're achieving over 7200 mega transfers or beyond. At the time of receiving and testing this kit, the Micron announcement for consumer wasn't really out there. It seems that this review is a little bit moot, with Crucial being pulled from the consumer segment for I don't know how long. I don't want to get into the politics. There's a lot of videos out there on that, and I'm not going to go into that, as my job here was really just to test this RAM and show you how it performs. But I am saddened, as it was showing real promise from where it ended at Ballistics, and I was expecting to see things getting better and better. But as we know, that is not the case. Guys, I do hope you enjoyed this review. This RAM is really good. Get it while it lasts or while it's available. If you are considering it, please give me any comments or suggestions in the comment section below. If you do have any questions on this kit, I'll be happy to answer them for you, and also link you to all the tests. Hope you enjoyed this one. Cheers. Goodbye.